All right. Hey guys, Brandon from RC Flyer here. Gonna do a one-off build. Gonna be taking the Redcar Ascent-32, and we're just gonna be taking every single part off, disassemble, putting a brand new Furatech system in. I'm not using the controller or the receiver just because that's going in a different build, and I've got other stuff for this build. But we've got all sorts of goodies from Endura, and also going to be switching over the frame from an RC. This is an RC Crawler Craze frame that'll allow me to use a 24 scale Endura servo, which is going to be way better. So let's get started with tearing down and building the transmission. All right, the first thing we're going to do is start tearing down everything. First, we'll take the battery out. Put that over there. If you guys don't have one of these tools, get one. It's a micro tool set. It is well worth it when you're handling these smaller builds. All right. Unplug the motor from the ESC. Motor will pop right out as well. And there you go. That's the whole frame. I'm not going to be using this. So ESC. So with a nice small knife, you can pry it off. And a tool just like this. And this basically can go over there in the scrap heap. All right, there's the frame. Here is the transmission and stock engine with drive shafts. So the next thing we're gonna do is swap over and put the new engine. All right guys, engine swap. So we got a base right here that we're gonna use, a skid plate brass instead of using the original. And we're gonna open up and get the engine out. And at this point as well, we need drive shafts. We're gonna have metal drive shafts in this. So let's open this up. See what we have in here. This is that whole Furatech kit. Again, I'm not going to be using the radio or the receiver. I will be using that in a different build. But you got this. You open it up, well packed as usual by Furatech. Got the instructions right there. Here's the remote. Again, we're not going to be touching that right now. Give you a little two-sided tape. And the last thing in the box is the motor and ESC. All in one. Look at how tiny this thing is, this whole system. So tiny. I'm gonna unplug the ESC right now, if I can. Hopefully I can. Come on. There we go. Put that aside. All right, let's take down the transmission here. First, take the small screws off the bottom. Take that off. And I'm gonna need to get this open. This ready. Comes with all the hardware you need. It's a nice brass piece. So what we're first gonna do is add the brass piece. So there's one part we don't need. Got a little garbage over here. So there we go. So to start, we just got to match up the transmission. Actually, before we do that, we're gonna take the engine off. Then we can do all that. So carefully, there's 4 screws. First, you're gonna have to take the drive shaft off. And that is with an itty bitty screwdriver. Take the first one off. So you don't want to use these again, guys, which, you know, most people don't, but I always save them. Since these screws are so small, you just try to put them back where they go so that you know where they are the next time. Only makes sense, right? Right. And you have to do this because the cover will never come off without the drive shafts off. So again, these screws are very tiny, so hard to see. Now there's 4 screws right here, guys. 4 screws. And what I'm using is a .050 tool. That's also in my little screwdriver end. And to speed it up, we can do this. So let's grab this tool. I need these, you're gonna have to reuse these screws. Some screws in this build we're not gonna have to, but these you're definitely gonna have to reuse. And if you're just changing out the engine, you would do that anyway, so FYI. All right, be careful when you take it out so that all your parts don't just fly off, because then it makes for a harder to put back. All right, so there it is. And then you can see I lost a ball bearing. It goes right in there. Just put that back. So this is what it looks like, guys. Now you're gonna have to pull your gears out of there so that you can get to the screws to take the engine off. So be careful. Make sure you know where they're going, so you can put them all back in the correct spot, because the two screws are right there. So these two screws, I believe, are right here. Yeah, it's just a bigger tool that you're going to need to use. So I'll use my Endura set, which is a really good set, but on tiny stuff, it's, you know, I wouldn't highly recommend using it. There's that one. And we got this one. All right, guys. So, engine is out. Throw that over there. Not going to need it again. We're going to unplug the motor from the ESC. And then we're going to stick the motor in here, like so. The interesting thing is to know how this is going to work and line up so that the splines hit the motor. So we'll see where the gears hit. So not sure how this is going to go. It's the top, probably something like this. Whoop, let's not have it spin. Come on. There we go. And again, we will see. Again, patience with these smaller builds. There we go. Hopefully this will be perfect with the splines. You don't want to over tighten anything either. So put that out of the way. So we got this. Now we're going to start putting everything back in. And I can see right off the bat, we are good to go. The transmission's well greased. Whoop. I want to put this guy here first. Make sure he's sticking out. And he's fully in, which he's not. Actually is. And we gotta get this guy where he needs to go. Come on. And again, guys, you can see it's not the easiest. You just got to be patient. Make sure everything fits properly. And there we go. Now we just gotta, I'm not gonna need any more grease. They did a good job putting grease on this, so I'm just gonna put it back like that, button it up. And that's how easy it is to put a Furatech engine in the transmission. Again, plastic parts, if you're using a screwdriver, don't over tighten. And if we can get this last screw in, that would be great. Well, we'll just do it manual. To start, and then you can always then super blast it. Then with this is all the screws they gave us for this part, which includes a lot of the frame. So we'll just keep it like this. Just be careful that you don't lose any of these parts. And this goes just like this. Once you get one started, you're fine, but getting that one started can be a nuisance. Alright guys, so this is how you swap the transmission over. So guys, this is how you put the new engine on the transmission. Alright, now we're going to put the frame and the transmission on. This is more of a guessing game, guys, for some of these parts, since, you know, I get this from a guy that does 3D, so company, so you know, there's no real instructions. You just gotta wing it. Lost a screw. Winging it's not helping right now. Let's try again. I've got so many screws, I'm not too concerned, but all right, one in. It's hard to see the holes. All right. So this is gonna go like this. So we're gonna go like this, guys. Sorry if you couldn't see before. Now I'll be able to line this up and get it on. Hopefully. Again, tiny parts. Gotta be patient. And you gotta make sure that you have the transmission located the way that you want it, which I want. You need to good. You get it started, then you can use the power drill just to make it faster. First side on. Repeat and repeat what we just did. Probably fast forward through this part so I don't bore you guys. So this is just the same thing, just trying to get it threaded into the frame. There we go. Another small one here. And guys, if you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button just to let you know that I will be doing many of these. I've got Axial SCX 30 build coming once all the parts come. Same thing with a Axial 24 build, so that should be fun. If you guys are interested in these builds and how to do it. So again, it's winter, so I don't do much flying. So these micro builds are so much fun. A lot of money though, even in micro, to do all this. So there it is, guys. The transmission is all together on the frame right now. All right, next step, we're gonna clean up the axles. That's one thing we are gonna reuse is the axles. Not the links or the steering, but the axles. So we're gonna take all this off so they're just bare axles, and then we're gonna swap over and put the metal drive shafts on. So starting in the rear. All right, after finagling, there it is. We'll do the same with the front end, and we'll put all the steering as well on. So all right, links are together. Didn't want to bore you with putting on the balls on because that is time consuming sometimes. So you got the brass front knuckles, you got the hardware. So we're starting to accumulate hardware. That goes to the frame. Over here we'll have the hardware for the steering knuckles. And we will start disassembling the front end. There we go. And there we go. And if you get scared which is which, it kind of makes sense when you take them apart. But they also put a L and an R on what side. So it's kind of idiot proof at that point on where things go. They swap off bolts, so I'll do this. 2 bolts. There's one there. One here. And then the whole assembly pops off. From here, you want to be careful to not lose that piece. That piece is very important. Put it on over here, out of the way. And yeah, shouldn't be too hard to get out. May need to use a little bit of force. Not sure why that's not just coming off, but we'll get it to work. Then we go like this with the same thing over here. And we are going to reuse the axle housings. So that's one thing we're going to use that from the original. At this point, I don't think they make any aftermarket ones. Again, be careful when you take this off. Put it aside so you don't lose that little drive pin. Now you want to get these out. And again, why they're not coming out is my bad. I forgot that there are little screws that hold the ball bearing in, which is actually smart. So right here, screws. May need those later. Don't think we do though, because we'll be using different hardware for. And now it should come right out. And again, be careful. It's got several ball bearings. Once you've cleared it out, you can throw that piece to the side. And again, but before I do this one, we are going to, so again, make sure we're doing it right. That's the right side. This is the left side. So what we will do is the first ball bearing goes in here like that. Actually, no, it does not. I believe it. The ball bearing goes like this. I just took it apart, guys, and now I don't remember. No, I'm all wrong with the big ball bearing. It goes like this, which makes sense because it fits around this thing right there. And we'll do this one. So yeah, we want to do this. Take the drive shaft. We're going to be using the drive shafts, the OEM drive shafts as well. So that goes in like that. This will go in like this. Hopefully everything fits in nicely, which it's not for me right now. There we go. Slowly put this in like that, and there you go. Now, you take these really small screws that they give you, and you got to remember it's like the same process as what we did when we took it out. We need to, and the ball bearing fell out, so I got to make sure that fits flush again. There we go. We hold that in, and in the same location on the Injora brass knuckles, you can see that it goes like this, and another smallest screw they have goes there to plug up the hole. So we do that again, and that goes over here. Repeat and rinse. So again, we're gonna do the same thing over here. So make sure everything fits perfect. Mount it in, hold it in place like so. And once you get the first one in, you don't have to worry about the ball bearing falling out, but until you do the first one, just be mindful. There you go. And it took me a while for this because this is the second build. I have 2 of these. In the first one, I learned a lot on the patience and putting these knuckles on correctly. So again, your knuckles want to go like this, and they fit in. You gotta make sure that the drive shaft goes in and drops into place. This one has, and that's how it's gonna go. But you're gonna want to use these spacers, guys. One. And this is where it can get a little frantic, is you're gonna need to put these spacers in and get the screw in there. And once you get that in, it looks like that. And then you carefully get your screw in, and there it is. Now you got to do it 3 more times. I will come back after everything's put together. All right, guys, the knuckles are all in, everything's spinning freely. Next is just to put the steering links in. All right, guys, everything's moving freely. So next thing is just to put the steering links on. Carefully slip those in like that. Hopefully you can aim it the first time, which I didn't. Sure you don't. Come on. And there we go. Last but not least is to add the bigger servo. And I made one mistake, guys, of course. Hopefully I can slip it in. I forgot to put the second drive shaft cover on. So let's do that right now. Kind of embarrassing. Putting everything on, forgot some parts. That will happen from time to time. I'm gonna say that it's happens not often, but when it does, it's usually catastrophic. This one's not. Everything's still off the truck. Get some of these parts out of the way. Hopefully I can just slip this on like so. Looks like I can. All right, it's on there. Got to get the see how well I can get this aftermarket 3D printed servo mount on, which should mount right to the front as well. And there it is. Just like that. And then everything will tighten up once we get the links on. But again, this is how to do the front end axle assembly with all the aftermarket parts. Next thing we're going to do is add everything, the links on, and then assembly. Alright guys, links were already, ball joints were already put together, which that is huge. That helps out a lot for the assembly part. So the next thing we're going to do is put the rear ones on, which the rear are always the longer ones. So that goes there. And then the front ones are the shorter ones. Alright, it's time to add the links. And while adding the links, we got to add the, at the same time, we've got to add the suspension. So and on these small ones, the suspension is added a little differently than some of the bigger models. So they're on the ends of where the links are, which is a weird system. Again, you want the longest. They fit in just like this. My first go around in my first truck that I did this to, I broke these tabs. They're very, very, very plastic, cheap. So you don't want to wreck those tabs. I already filled a little bit of oil in these because these are big bore shocks. Don't add a lot. You don't want them tight. Come on, get in there. There we go. There we go. I'm not sure where I want these links. These are you can have different posts, so I'm gonna add those to the body side. So it's gonna be repeat and rinse. So I'm gonna do this to the front, and then we'll be back. All right, let's continue with the links. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing here as we did on the other one. Got to get the shocks ready to go. Line them up the best you can. And, oh, I had it and I had to pull it out by accident. Again, I'm gonna state it's a lot easier working on larger builds. These micro vehicles is everything's smaller, takes more time, more patience. And for me, I'm not a patient person, so again, it's tougher for me sometimes. There we go. There we go. Get the first one in. Like so. Let's get the second one in. And that's having a problem getting in. Oh, and the little rubber band fell off. No big deal. You can just put it back on. If it broke, they usually give you extras, just like that. And let's try it again. Make sure we're putting it on the correct way. This one looks like I'm going to have to open it up a little. Oh boy. Hopefully I didn't just break that. And I did. So I just broke that little tab. Unfortunately, that stinks. I have an extra one though. That's the good part. I do have an extra one of those. So that stinks, but again, brittle parts, small parts, that's what happens sometimes. And I'm not sure why this one is so much, it's giving me a hard time. All right, got the links on, and lucky me, I do have an extra one. I actually bought one because I didn't know that the frame came with one. So lucky me, lucky me. So let's undo this again. Got to be careful. Again, just 3D printed parts sometimes are brittle, depending on the material you use. I do not have a 3D printer at this time. We'll be getting one eventually, because I think 3D printers in this market are super cool. All right, let's get this back on. Let's not break it this time. Let's be more careful, and I'm not going to add the servo yet to it. And while we have this open, it'll make it easier too without the servo, because I've got to add the links. Hopefully these can line up. And hopefully we can get these in fairly easy. one's a little long for what I need. And again, let's line it up. And be careful so we don't break that tab like we just did on that last mount, because this is my last servo mount I have. All right, that's not all the way in, but that's okay. And it doesn't matter. I used the wrong one. Again, long ones go in the rear. All right, guys, now let's get to building this and assembling the front and rear end. I'm gonna start with the rear end. It's gonna be a lot easier. First, I'm gonna have to put the links to everything's added. Got the drive shafts. The articulation looks good. Way bigger servo. That's cool. Look at how tiny the motor is on that. That's just crazy. Look at stock, and you can hardly see the difference. So, all right, we're gonna continue to just add some of the body parts from the frame that I took apart, so that then we can start putting the ESC in and the receiver. But we'll come back with all that. All right, guys, so we have everything that's gonna go. I am actually gonna use this system. I'm just gonna have to swap out and steal apart, because this is made for the old servo with the 3 or 5 prongs or whatever. So we'll get that sorted out. Button everything up. I don't really need to show you buttoning up, and the build should be good. So let's see. Testing. All right, guys, it's done. Got the micro unit. I did change my mind. I am going to use what came with it. Everything looks good here. It's pretty good. A couple things falling off I gotta address, but yeah, everything looks pretty darn good. This will go like this, and came out pretty good, guys. So stay tuned. Gonna button everything up, and then we'll take her for a test run. Again, if you like this kind of full builds, let me know in the description. I've got a few more that I'm planning on doing, but if you're not interested, then no need. But if you are, great. So let me know. And again, if you like what you saw, hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Feels like it's a start.